We are live, and with that, let's get things rocking and rolling. All right, so we might have some more people join us today, but right now it's myself, Nick, and Greg. So we got three regulars. Damien is speaking at some giant conference. The cats might show up. Cat Casey and Cat Moon might be here. And then Geo, I think he might be out golfing, but he was supposed to be here. But we know Geo loves a good golf. With that, though, let's just kick it around the horn in case this is someone's first Legal AI Live. Greg, let's start with you. Just let everyone know who you are, what you do.
Sure. So Greg Kuchetski, I'm Vice President of Thought Leadership and Applied AI at the American Arbitration System.
And Nick.
Yeah, Nick Rishwain with experts.com. We're an online marketing and consulting platform for expert witnesses and consultants, business consultants. I am the vice president there. I'm a director. It's one of those things when you own your own company where you just kind of change the title when necessary thing. So, but that's where I'm at. And AI is certainly just being a joy for everything business related.
Yeah, and I'm Matthew Kurbis. I'm the subscription attorney and CEO of Practi. And yeah, nothing happened in AI in the last month. So bye, everybody. Thanks for coming. Oh, wait a second. A lot's been happening. So let's just keep going in this order until more people show up. But Greg, like of all the crazy stories happening, what's stuck out to you in this world of legal AI? And then also, like, is it affecting any of the work you're actually doing?
So, I mean, I think the big news is not even directly about legal AI, but that, Claude Fable model dropped this week, and I immediately got a Max plan and just been using it constantly, mostly in my free time, but it is definitely capable in ways that Opus is not. And so that's been really the most exciting development. And it sounds like OpenAI is going to fast follow with their own next great model, 5.6 or whatever it's going to be. So they just keep getting better and better. It's really incredible.
How about you, Nick? What's been most interesting to you, and is it affecting what your work is in any way?
So a couple of things, Matthew. I'm still largely Team Claude and Team Notebook LM. Just added the Trellis connector to Claude today for my legal AI, and just fantastic use case here. Probably something that we could use at experts.com to, so definitely something the lawyers can use for looking up experts in their, past testimonies and things like that. But for me, the solution I saw right away is when I get news of an expert who's done something funny or that would impeach their credibility, something that's unethical, I'll usually blacklist that expert in our CRM so that we do not reach out to them. We do not try and get them to be a member. This could help with kind of the vetting, the preliminary. Now, the vetting's largely on the lawyers end anyway in this situation, but we try to do some preliminary vetting. So I think that this is a really great resource. Also been, as a result of you and Damien and me, to Descript for audio editing. The two places I've been playing today have been learning the AI version of Descript, all the AI tools available there. It's really incredible. So Claude Legal and Descript right now.
And welcome, of course, to Cat Moon. Cat, we only have just gone around the horn twice, once for introductions and once for saying, of all the crazy stuff happening with AI in the legal space right now, what's the thing that has been most interesting to you, and is it affecting your work in any way? So if you want to intro yourself and answer that question.
Hey, so I'm dropping in just for a few minutes because I always miss these fabulous conversations, and I just got out of a Zoom and I'm like, let's go. So hello, good to see everybody. Cat Moon, I am co-director of the Vanderbilt AI Law Lab. I'm a professor of the practice. I'm a practicing attorney for almost 30 years. So that's me in a nutshell. So what's the wildest thing going on right now? Was that the question?
In your opinion, because there's a grab bag of things you could pick from. What's most interesting to you, and then how is it maybe affecting the work that you're doing?
Right now, what's most interesting to me is that folks are still surprised that lawyers continue to screw up with AI. There's absolutely nothing surprising about that. Zero. And so maybe it's the most interesting and the single most frustrating. What is awesome to me is that I think like AI is just an incredible forcing factor. It's going to force us to deal with the way nothing else has. And so what I predict is that there's actually going to be meaning and accountability behind certain aspects of competency when it comes to practicing law. And it's going to happen because unlike anything else lawyers do to screw up, the world is fascinated with the fact that we keep filing fake cases in court documents. And it's not at all surprising to me that this is happening because we do not require lawyers to do jack shit. And so the fact that we now are saying, gosh, you're screwing up. I mean, honestly, if I were one of those attorneys, I'm like, nobody's cared before. What's the problem now? Anyhow, I have strong feelings. Hey, Kat.
It's a catception. I'm so excited. And I was just going to chime in, like, do we think there haven't been humans hallucinations going on all the time since before November 30th, 2022? Come on, let's be real. Like
So my LinkedIn post, that was what my LinkedIn post promoting this was about. Thank you, Kat. Thank you.
no, just great minds. I just by osmosis.
So welcome, Kat, the Techno Cat, so with two cats, and Natalie Knowlton coming on the show. So we're still just going around for the first question. So Kat, just in addition, say who you are, and then Natalie, you'll do a quick introduction for yourself too.
Awesome. So my name is Kat Casey, aka the Techno Cat. If you are on LinkedIn and don't know me, I am shocked. Tell me how you've hidden from the algorithm. I am the Chief Legal AI Futurist for the Masters AI Conference, an AI native conference for legal by legal, and the founder of Techno Cat. And I've been basically Sisyphus and sequins shouting in the void about AI for 20 years, and now people want to listen. So I'm pretty stoked.
And Natalie, say hello and let people know who you are.
Sure. I'm Natalie. Oops, I just froze. Great time to freeze. I'm Natalie Knowlton. I'm the Associate Director for Legal Innovation at the Rody Center at Stanford Law School. Also, Natal Alley Cat across platforms and highly obsessed with felines.
So just to round out the first question, back to Kat, then Natalie, where the first question is, of all the crazy grab bag of stories of things happening in legal AI or greater AI, what's the one that's been most interesting to you and why, and how, if at all, it's affecting your work?
So I'm going to do a weird one. I mean, I think the former CEO of Ironclad going to OpenAI to start the Codex for Law, that's a gauntlet. That's not plugins. That's not connectors. That's not workflows. That might be an actual reason for $1 trillion legal tech sell-off, because that sounds to me like a foundational AI model is going for the jugular. It's not changing anything I do, but I'm watching it very, very attentively because like Ironclad was a $3.5 billion legal tech company. That's not an afterthought. That's a shot over the bow for all of us to, I think, pay very close attention to.
Love it. Natalie, what about you? Same question.
So wait, what was the question?
The question is, there's so much happening with legal AI right now. Of the grab bag of things, which one is most interesting to you? And is it affecting your work in any way?
Well, so I have the benefit of working at a university. So like whatever trends are happening in the legal industry guide my work. So yes, the answer to that last question is yes. And I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm tracking and interested in is this rise of AI native law firms and how that relates to private equity engagement with legal. It's fascinating. It's happening so quickly. And there are, I think, nobody involved in this conversation has just like an okay opinion on it. It's just either super extreme or you don't know what's happening. And so a lot of hot takes and following a lot of those, doing some research as well.
As soon as I go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question just because we have two folks from academia on here? What's your take on Berkeley banning AI for their students? Like for me, that is like an existential dread moment of, we're already not teaching them discovery. Are we going to handcuff them from at least learning the risk and opportunity of AI? That was, I think, of this week also. And I'm just like, oh, makes me nervous.
I'll chime in real quick to say, I looked at that initially, and so I'm going to say this from memory. I believe that faculty still have discretion. So, and honestly, that's how it is at every single law school. Our policy, which is tiny because I moderated a panel on law school AI policies and everybody had to share their policy. And like they're sending like paragraphs and paragraphs, and ours is like 4 sentences. It's hilarious. But anyhow, but what is consistent, and this is just how higher education is structured anyway, is that whatever the rule is, like it's ultimately up to faculty to decide how to use it in their course and in their classroom. And Vanderbilt's policy is, unless it's approved in your course, you can't use it. So it's actually not that dissimilar. It's just that we don't come out with this big soliloquy about all these things. Now, I have lots of thoughts on what law schools should be doing, but that's my understanding of that. So Natalie, pass it.
Well, I mean, I don't have the perspective that you do as being on faculty. I think there's some interesting pros potentially to that in terms of actually training lawyers to do lawyer things. And I think we're getting this whole issue of hallucinations and checking work is kind of reaching this critical point. And I think we're doing a disservice when we talk about the need to train young people on AI. And it's actually an issue of, you're going against the code of ethics. If you actually, it's not an AI issue, it's a competency issue, it's an ethical breach. I think we should be more serious about it. So maybe taking AI away from them will embed that in students. I don't know, but obvious drawbacks.
I think it comes back around to my point that I was making about cases. I'll just say 2 things really quickly. One, I did create a framework for people teaching in law schools to think about how they approach using AI in their course. And the primary point of it is, regardless of whether or not you choose to engage with the technology, simply explain to students what the rule is and your basis for it, right? Give students, and to your point, Natalie, there are absolutely reasons why students should be doing work that is completely detached from the technology so that they can form the foundation that will then help them have judgment when they start practicing. But I don't think people are doing a good job at all of giving students information that helps them understand why the rules are what they are. So we could always improve upon that. The other thing is we're about to release the very beta version of a framework for AI competency. And what is most critical for lawyers, and it's a 3-part model framework, is discernment. And to your point, Natalie, we can't do the lawyerly part of using AI if we lack the discernment capabilities. And we form those by doing the work. And so it all feeds back into, what does it mean to form a lawyer? And I use the word form instead of train. What does it mean to form a lawyer? And the last thing I'm going to say, perhaps for the entire session, because I'm actually early, we have historically dropped the ball in meaningful lawyer formation. We have troves of research telling us what we're failing to do, and it's consistent in what we should be doing, or at least the direction we should be going in. And all of it points, this is how we got where we are. And so I think AI is going to be the forcing factor, that we're finally going to have to get our shit together and decide, what does it mean to form a lawyer, and then do those things. And we need to do that whether AI blows us up or not. So I'm done. Dropping the mic.
A lawyer is formed when a baby's first words are "I object," right? Isn't that how a lawyer is formed? I think. Greg, does any of this resonate with you about the whole education not helping lawyers learn to use the tools, or where do you find the balance?
I mean, I think there's a place for both AI literacy and just lawyerly literacy without the aid of AI. And I don't know where the balance is, but I definitely agree that, lawyers do need to learn how to think like a lawyer and to be formed as a lawyer, to use Pet's parlance. And I don't know how you do that unless you're actually reading case law and statutes and writing stuff yourself. I think that's how you learn to think.
Nick, any thoughts on this topic?
Repeat that question for me, Matthew.
Yeah, no problem.
I was checking the comments in the audience, so I missed it.
Yeah. Somebody's participating. Thank you. Yeah, just the whole role that education is playing or failing to play to help lawyers be practice ready with AI, and for balanced against, should they not be using it to build the foundational skills?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you from my standpoint, we've talked about it before. I've had learning disabilities and I have. And I got to tell you that AI would have been life-changing for me in law school. It would have changed my entire experience. And so I think that is so trying to remove it is a huge disservice. Then trying to track that you've removed it, I don't know how you're going to do that, right? Like, oh, I'm going to use Claude anytime the university told me I shouldn't do something, or any authority for that matter, right? I was gonna do it, and now if you're going to tell me that I shouldn't be as a student, law student or college student or any of that, now you're going to tell me that I shouldn't use one of the most transformative, freely available technologies in the world that's going to impact my life for the rest of my life. Well, I got to tell you, I would have thought as a student that was a really short-sighted view by a university and individual educators, and I would have ignored it.
And
I also think we have to look at like the financial ramifications, right? If I'm Kirkland and Ellis, am I going to be prioritizing a school that's not training folks how to use AI when I'm saying I'm going to spend $500 million for my lawyers to use AI? I don't think we should allow people to outsource their judgment. That's where it gets risky. But I was a Y2K baby. I started undergrad in 2000. And so it was the beginning of Wikipedia, and they tried to ban the internet from research. By my second or third year in college, they were teaching you how to effectively research, to go to the primary sources with the internet. And so I think we need to teach people how to use these tools in the workflow of being a lawyer. Teach them, okay, don't just trust the citation, go to Lexis and Westlaw. Don't just trust the reasoning, make sure it's the right type of case. Because we need to prepare lawyers to do law, all the different flavors of it, in the context of an AI-enabled world. And so if they don't understand the risks and the opportunities and the unique challenges posed by this technology, they might not be as equipped and not as likely to get the interview to do their summer associate work at a top law firm that is AI first.
I will add to what Kat says there, because when I say this, now I am taking courses again because I'm terrible at hobbies, but what Kat's saying is true. And I have to remind myself that I'm from the biased viewpoint that I had to learn law the old way without AI. And now I get to do things with it. And so I am seeing that skewed than maybe a younger student who is just now experiencing that. So I've learned both ways, and I can now make the more critical assessment that AI would be hugely advantageous for me. But I still think if you're not giving students a chance to learn this technology, you're doing them a real disservice. And for those students like myself who are autodidact anyway, who are going to go and teach themselves again outside of the lecture, because the lecture was always a waste of time for me, when you're going to go and do that, having my ability to, and I'm not striking the academics in here. I just think this is because I think what they do and the research that they do and all that is hugely important. But in the classroom, learning for me was never very valuable. And so I think but what is valuable for me is question and answer with chatbot, because then I can dig deeper and I can ask it to find more sources, and I can, and so I'm learning on that interaction. That said, the common kind of thing there is I do have some base of knowledge with which to work with that students largely don't have.
Yes. So Nick, I agree with you. I certainly have students who have shared with me how using these tools have improved their ability to thrive as law students, like for a whole host of reasons. And there is that risk that they dig deeper, but where they dig actually is wrong, right? Or not right enough, or, and that's the scary part. And that's where discernment comes in. So I believe strongly 3.5 years into teaching with this technology that we have to decenter tool fluency and center discernment. And that the competency framework is simple. It's AI literacy. It's understanding how the technology works. You have to understand how and why it does what it does on some level to be able to use it tools fluently. Tool fluency, AI fluency is about using the tools. But we can't use the tools effectively if we don't understand how they're working. And ultimately, as legal professionals, we have an obligation that goes much farther above the average Joe in terms of what we do with the output from a tool, for example. And we're referring to that layer, that segment, that strand, as discernment. And I think that's where, Nick, to your point, you have to be really thoughtful and intentional when we have students using it, because they don't have the discernment
Mhm.
to make the calls that an attorney with experience has. And I don't have a good answer to this, but a question we all need to be asking is how does that form, again, it comes back to formation. How does that formation happen in this day and age? And I think that it absolutely can, but it's not going to just happen because we will it to be so. And I think if we're honest, it hasn't been happening as effectively and is in an even distribution as it should have been before these tools existed. So it's this incredible opportunity. Like, we know we're going to have to do something anyway. So let's kill it. Let's do a really good thing. Let's decide, what do we want this future to look like and how do we get there? And I'm with you, Nick. I mean, I do believe being able to use this technology as part of your law school experience can be really transformative. The last thing I'll say, famous last words, I'm seeing a big difference in the use among students. Absolutely, some are like Nick says he would be. I don't care what you tell me I can or can't use. I'm going to do what I want to do. And law students have been doing that forever, right? You go to Outline Banks. We've been using like the offline version of this stuff forever. So you take whatever resources you can get to help you get through it and do as well as you can. However, there are students, and a lot of these are women, who, if they're told you can't do this, and if you get caught with this, that you're
Mhm.
going to get kicked out and that you're not going to be a good lawyer if you offload, they will not touch it. And they
Yep.
develop fear around it. And we are doing those students, as much a disservice as we are the students who are using it inappropriately because they're going to do it anyway. So, yeah.
I want to
That's
remind folks that this is a live show and we have live chat is popping off right now. Okay, we've got a lot of people attending live. People are
Wow.
commenting off of the chat. Thank you, Jason Horst, previous panelist on the show. Thank you, Mark Rako. We're asking, what tools are you using? What are you seeing? What do you think about this education battle? A lot of fun stuff in the chat. So keep that going. Go ahead, Kat, TechnoCat.
I was going to say, it's not just the students. They're like, I've run into people who have a job like mine that have said, well, doesn't it feel like cheating? So someone whose job is to talk to the world about AI is like, well, if I write something and I use AI, it sort of feels like cheating. There's almost like this dichotomy we're creating where it's like these powerful tools and resources, if they keep being banned or kind of blacklisted, there's almost this like perception of I'm doing something wrong if I'm leveraging these tools. And if you're leveraging them effectively, it's just you amplified. So it's not even something that stops at, when you graduate or when you're, first, second, third year associate. I've people 20, 30 years in their career are kind of having that. It's not imposter syndrome. It's I'm breaking the rules syndrome, which is the weirdest thing. Even people who I consider very AI literate. And I think maybe that's because of all of this dialogue around how, AI slop this, cheating that, banning at schools. Like, we're creating a false dichotomy. It's not, do I learn law or do I learn AI? It's, do I learn how to use AI in the context of doing legal tasks? Do I leverage these tools? Like, you wouldn't shame someone for using a word processor in the era of typewriters. Why are we creating that shame when it's just people using better tools to do better output? You had me at Clippy.
I think that the one antidote to transgressiveness, like feeling that you're doing something transgressive, is transparency. Disclose the fact that you're using AI and generating whatever work product you're generating, and that seems like it takes the problem away. I mean, I publish a weekly newsletter that's completely AI generated. It says it right at the beginning of the newsletter every week. And so I don't feel any guilt about it at all because of being transparent.
I also think, and I was just in Amsterdam, I did a keynote for Lexpo on it, and I'm fleshing out, I'm playing with this idea, but there's almost a duality of confidence when it comes to AI, like an overconfidence in the output. The more it's kind of sycophantic and kind of confirming your biases, the more polished it looks, the less confidence some of the users have in their own discernment and their own judgment. And so it's leading to this over and under confidence, like it's a dual curve that can lead to almost like an identity crisis for folks. Like if you're an expert and your values, your brain and this insight you bring, and you're deferring to the generalist large language tools instead of bringing your own insights, it can be a dangerous issue. And I think that kind of goes to some of what Kat was talking about. I'm assuming discernment and judgment is probably similar to what I'm thinking about, like being able to kind of push back, to add your own insight, to be able to validate the output and to make sure that it's got the right nuance. And so we're in an interesting moment where people are gaining confidence in the AI while possibly losing confidence in themselves. And to get good output, you need to have both and be able to balance both, I think.
So I want to add to that, Kat. Oh, sorry, Matthew. Let me just add just slight color to that. Is with my new experience going back to school for kind of fun and my own edification, I have definitely used like Notebook LM to turn articles into the podcasts for me to learn with journal articles and whatnot. What I have stopped AI from doing, I'll use Claude with building an outline for a paper, but I won't tell it to write me the paper because I still got to exercise that that muscle. I've got to, if I'm not exercising that, then what's the point of me taking the classes? So I'm not picking it up myself and I'm just outsourcing it to the AI. I guess if you were only interested in the degree, which there was a day in my life I probably was, right? But at this stage of my life, I want to learn something, and that's the whole point of taking the classes is continuing learning. So I hold back beyond like beyond, all right, here's all the sources, write the paper for me, because then I'm really not getting any value.
That ends part 1 of this month's Legal AI Live. Make sure to subscribe to the Legal AI Live podcast at legalailive.com to catch part 2. You could also subscribe to our new YouTube channel or on any podcast app, just search Legal AI Live, and follow the Legal AI Live page on LinkedIn. See you next episode.